John Winston Ono Lennon, born John Winston Lennon, October 9, 1940 to 8 December 1980, was an English singer, songwriter, musician, and peace activist who achieved worldwide fame as founder, co-songwriter, co-lead vocalist, and rhythm guitarist of the Beatles. Lennon's work was characterized by the rebellious nature and acerbic wit of his music, writing and drawings. On film, and in interviews, his songwriting partnership with Paul McCartney remains the most successful in history. Born in Liverpool, Lennon became involved in the skiffle craze as a teenager. In 1956, he formed the Quarrymen, which evolved into the Beatles in 1960. Sometimes called the Smart Beatle, he was initially the group's de facto leader, a role gradually ceded to McCartney. Through his songwriting in the Beatles, Lennon embraced a myriad of musical influences, initially writing and co-writing rock and pop-oriented hit songs in the band's early years, then later incorporating experimental elements into his compositions in the latter half of the Beatles' career as his songs became known for their increasing innovation. Lennon soon expanded his work into other media by participating in numerous films, including How I Won the War, and authoring in his own right and A Spaniard in the Works, both collections of nonsense writings and line drawings. Starting with All You Need Is Love. His songs were adopted as anthems by the anti-war movement and the larger counterculture of the 1960s. In 1969, he started the Plastic Ono Band with his second wife, the multimedia artist Yoko Ono, held the 2-week-long anti-war demonstration Bed-Ins for Peace, and left the Beatles to embark on a solo career. During the 1960s, John Lennon began to frequently take LSD and by 1967 was a heavy user. This also coincided with a period of uncertainty, and he considered leaving the Beatles. The death of Brian Epstein, their manager in 1967, also hit Lennon and the Beatles hard. However, this was also a period of musical inventiveness, with new styles of music helping to create some classic recordings, such as Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Between 1968 and 1972, Lennon and Ono collaborated on many works, including a trilogy of avant-garde albums, several more films, his solo debut John Lennon/Plastic Ono Band, and the international top 10 singles, Give Peace a Chance, Instant Karma, Imagine, and Happy Christmas, War is Over. Moving to New York City in 1971, his criticism of the Vietnam War resulted in a 3-year deportation attempt by the Nixon administration. Lennon and Ono separated from 1973 to 1975, during which time he produced Harry Nilsson's album Pussycats. He also had chart-topping collaborations with Elton John, Whatever Gets You Through the Night, and David Bowie, Fame. Following a 5-year hiatus, Lennon returned to music in 1980 with the Ono collaboration Double Fantasy. He was murdered by a Beatles fan, Mark David Chapman, 3 weeks after the album's release. In October of 1980, Lennon made a return to music recording. But, just 2 months later, on December 8, 1980, John Lennon was shot dead in Dakota, New York. He was shot by David Chapman, an obsessed fan. He later pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and was imprisoned for life. As a performer, writer, or co-writer, Lennon had 25 #1 singles in the Billboard Hot 100 chart. Double Fantasy, his best-selling album, won the 1981 Grammy Award for Album of the Year. In 1982, Lennon won the Brit Award for Outstanding Contribution to Music. In 2002, Lennon was voted 8th in a BBC History poll of the 100 Greatest Britons. Rolling Stone ranked him the 5th greatest singer and 38th greatest artist of all time. He was inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 1997 and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice. As a member of the Beatles in 1988 and as a solo artist in 1994.